Today we'll be speaking to Anju Saigal, who is the founder director of CEQUE and has worked in the social and development sector at organizations such as Pratham and ICICI Foundation. So Anju, to start off, could you tell us more about your experience working at Pratham and ICICI Foundation and how it helped you sort of get experience in the social sector?
Yeah, sure. Both were wonderful organizations to work with, and I would say they were the real, the real spaces where I learned, how to navigate and be in the social sector. At Pratham, the beauty of it was that when I joined Pratham, it was still in the very nascent stages of growth. We were still in Mumbai, began in Mumbai, and were talking about universalizing education only in the city of Mumbai at that time. And it was an exciting time because the term universalization was also a very new term in those days, and people didn't understand it. So there was, and within the organization also, the culture was a lot. There was a lot of freedom for innovation, for growth. You have an idea, try it out, test it out, and we'll take it to scale. So it was a really heady a time, especially for me. I had just graduated out of TISS and joined Pratham, and really the work was in the community-based organizing space where one worked with community workers and help them organize, bring children into the education fold. First to especially to improve, I would say, the access to education. So as part of this, one of the key things that I got the opportunity to do was to set up one of Mumbai's first bridge course programs, along with the leadership at Pratham, of course. That was a fantastic experience because bridge courses were unheard of in the city of Mumbai. Today everybody hears of remedial learning bridge courses, but in those days very few organizations across the country were doing it. And we borrowed some ideas from, I think it was MB Foundation, we were working with child labor, and we borrowed some ideas from that and tried to see how that could be done in the, urban education sector here. So set up, one of the first programs where how you could bring children who were of school age, but who were out of school, either never attended school or dropped out of school. How do you create a program for them and bring them into the, education, formal education space. So that was one thing that I did. So very, very rich experience, at the grassroots level. Worked there for 4 years, and then subsequently after my doctoral work, I worked at ICICI Foundation, where the experience was very, very different because in those days this was just post the Right to Education Act having been passed in the country, and state governments were needing help at the time to reform their curriculum, to reform their textbooks, to reform their teacher education, and all of this, in light of the new changes that were brought about by the Right to Education Act. So I worked very closely, setting up programs in the public-private partnership space as part of the leadership team of ICICI Foundation with the governments of Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, and later Odisha as well. But this was experience which was, at a state level, working with the state nodal agencies, and how do you galvanize resources around these new innovative ideas that were there, and then how do you bring them into practice at a macro level. When we are talking of state level, you are looking at an impact of 1 crore or over 1 crore of kids, and I don't remember the exact numbers now that were there at the time in Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh, but really the numbers were mind-boggling, and to be able to impact that larger number through state agencies and through strengthening state agencies. at the same time. So it was a lot of experience at a leadership level, at a institution, at a level where you could actually see institutions work and how they could be strengthened. So that education was of a completely different kind. I forgot what the latter part of the question was.
Yes, so I also wanted to ask you, what was your experience starting CEQUE and Center of Equity and Quality Universal Education? It's been
Yeah.
running for 8 years. So
Yeah.
for students interested in starting their own organization and within the non-profit sector, what advice would you give them? And
Okay. I think, so I came from reasonably several years of experience. I had also worked in the Boston public school system as well, as part of my. So, I came with an experience of Pratham, with ICICI Foundation, and also having worked in another, international, setting perspective. So, came with loads of experience, and then figured, well, this is the area where I think the gap lies. So essentially CEQUE, or Center for Equity and Quality Universal Education, believes in improving the quality of learning among all children, right? And the way we look to doing that is through strengthening teachers and teaching practice. And we work with government schools and low-cost private schools. So I came with all of that experience, right? And then figured that here is where the gap lies, and therefore, this is where we want to focus on. But starting an organization is not easy at all. It is one thing to work in an organization and think that you may be able to start your own. But starting your own organization, you only live and learn. So every single day is a huge learning. Because ultimately, you're setting up an organization. You're also setting up systems, processes. You're setting up an institution that you hopefully want to last even beyond yourself. While it starts with the founder, it cannot remain a founder-driven organization. It has to grow beyond that and to be something where the founder at some stage should no longer be needed in the whole space. So it involves a lot of institution building. It involves a lot of creating a culture where people thrive, creating an organization which is able to attract talent, which is also able to attract money and donors and partnerships, relevant partnerships. So it's been, I would say, very unanticipated, because one begins with saying, oh, I have this vision and I want to actualize this vision. But the journey of actualizing that vision is learning every step of the way. And that's been the most, I would say, gratifying, frustrating, biggest learning experience of it all. And I'm glad to say that all of that experience one has garnered over the years has paid off, in the sense that one is able to transfer a lot of that learning into this space. So I would say, in terms of the advice to others, is that gain as much of experience as you can. There is no right age or wrong age to start your own organization, but be prepared that it involves a lot more than just your vision. It involves a huge amount of capability of management, of having a vision, also of creating an organization, not simply working on an issue. There's a lot more I could share, but I think I will stop here.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.